Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 3rd of August. Not too much of a shock the other day. We filled back a little bit, not very much. We literally just went to the 76%, and that was off that weakness we saw in the steel. We can see it's starting to level out already, as well as we're starting to get a little bit of an uptick here in pre-market of the midterm buyers in green. So that's definitely the support held on that. Not a shock, particularly since we already saw the continued checkout rise. So perfectly in line. We expected the NASDAQ would be the leader on it, and in fact it was. It had much less of a decline, and pretty clean still with the NBI, though we get yellow and magenta narrowing. So without an additional spurt breakout, probably going to see that fill back in at least to the positive extreme that took place on this bar right here just a few days back. But all in all, the market's taking in stride some of the horrible things coming out of Europe, sort of the status quo. And as long as the belief is continuing that the Fed will ease, but, we're looking at the Euro situation, but also you got to look at the oil setup that's taking place in the U.S., and that's leveling off, which doesn't bode well for the easing case. It's something to keep in mind. From a gold standpoint, a little bit of softening as well. We had a little bit of a rate increase looking at treasuries when we get to that one, but here you can see gold, oil down to 93 range. So that just takes a little bit of pressure off the continued rise of inflation, in which case this idea of a soft landing may exist, which would still embolden the Fed to continue with tightening, and that would be a little bit contrary to market expectations. And here we have TLT. So after the big influx, rate jumped back up a little bit, not much, but the trend should continue down, particularly as the economic numbers recognize, because the bond market will usually get it correct, and they'll recognize that the Fed's probably not going to stop it. If that's the case, then rates definitely have to rise, in which case we would expect TLT to continue its drop. Bitcoin still hovering in that range, hasn't really done a whole lot. Readings are still clean on it when we get the buy signals versus the sells, so it's just hovering within that range. It means it's pretty solid support, which I think is helpful because it's beginning to trade more like a real currency than just sporadic up and down when there was all that free money floating. It was just the Wild West for it, and that's what led to the hyper exuberance. And now we're getting more stability out of it. We've always seen a little bit more stability out of Ethereum here in ETH from its buildups and that, and as I like it from the algo standpoint. From the 50K standpoint, we had the nice rise in the buy, but turnaround pivot. And it's still working with adjusting stops and that on these programs to make it more effective to when we see those changes and still being able to ride trend moves. From a 5K standpoint, we started off early with that decline. Then we sort of based a nice wide double bottom there broadly, and that led to the first run up, which still serious positive extremes. Nothing relevant to add additional lines to. We started with right on this bar here. Those filled pretty quick, and we had just a single one from the previous one, which actually filled, was the base of that pivot down, and then we started another leg up, only to do the exact same thing. It's similar, quite a few serious positive extremes down here, and literally just filling back into the exact same algo levels that we had from before. So they weren't done utilizing that. And that breakdown led to a pretty strong move all the way to the zero. We had white leading pretty much the whole way through there. Then we had this big spike of red, and that left for a continuation. And then we started to get a little bit of the build back before trading back lower. Now we've just literally come back right up to the break of that, which is at that 4103 algo level there from before. And we're getting some back and forth right now, and we're just filling back into that 4103 at this particular time. So I think again we're just going to see these really excellent ranges, and probably not a whole lot of difference from an end of day standpoint. But certainly for intraday action, I think it's still quite healthy and quite volatile. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. But as always, we'll continue to update and detail you on the Skype chat, as well as put up the charts for relevant situations. Trade well. We'll talk to you later.